Is there a chance that Marvel's Avengers could add Spider-Man and all the exclusives that are coming to PlayStation first eventually to PC and Xbox players? Let's look at it from both angles and see maybe why it might be possible, but it all I think depends on Sony. So just so we are clear on how the deal worked to get PlayStation a bunch of exclusives, Sony paid for them, and the incentive was there for Crystal Dynamics and Square, who have a pretty good relationship with Sony, to be able to do something like this. And obviously Sony is ponying up a little bit extra, considering they're going to give you a bunch of free coins, exclusive cosmetics that the devs have to work on. So they paid a pretty decent amount, I would assume, to secure a bunch of exclusivity. Now, Spider-Man is the interesting one, and many people have been asking, hey, Armin, what do you think? Do you think Sony could possibly agree to something and let Spider-Man go over to the other consoles, to PC, to Xbox, and could you talk about it? So first and foremost, let's talk about Marvel's Spider-Man, because that's the important one. That game, as we know, was developed by Insomniac, and they were contacted by the likes of Marvel Games, and Marvel Games made a deal with them. Sony pulled some of their Spider-Man ownership, if you will, and made it an exclusive, and from what we understand, they might have paid for it. But then came the news that Marvel could technically put the sequel, if they wanted to, on competitors' consoles. And then when we found that out, a couple of weeks went by and Sony bought Insomniac. They bought them to more or less secure them as a developer. So if Marvel Games wanted to take Marvel Spider-Man multi-platform, well, guess what? Bad news for you. You got to start all over. You can't use the engine. You can't use that world. You can't use that character because it's all tied up with Insomniac's version. So they guaranteed themselves that that version of Spider-Man is forever going to be a Sony exclusive. Smart move by them. Crystal and Square are not in the same scenario. It's a new version of Spider-Man. Now, does Sony hold any weight on him? That remains to be seen. My guess would be that you're probably going to hear about something like all the, cosmetic DLC, let's say first. That's probably going to be gated off for 30 days to half a year to maybe a year in some cases. Again, sort of like the more recent Call of Duties, right? Like there's an entire game mode in Modern Warfare that's like locked for a year. That's insane. So I guess PC and Xbox guys can play it when the new Call of Duty is out. Like, that blows my mind. I'm guessing something like that will happen. Now, Spider-Man is the interesting case here because, again, this isn't Insomniac's Spider-Man. They're not using that version, but they are using a Spider-Man. And we don't know what type of deal there is in the, fine paperwork. Now, of course, Spider-Man is not exclusive to just Sony. Well, Spider-Man as a whole. He was in Ultimate Alliance 3. He's in a bunch of the other games, like the mobile games and stuff. So again, Spider-Man is a character that can be used. I think Sony honestly paid extra to lock down the DLC exclusively to PlayStation because they want Sony to be synonymous with Spider-Man. Because that's their goal. It's their biggest movie of all time. They're developing a whole universe, and there's now 2 concurrent running Spider-Man game series on PlayStation. They want you to know, you pick up a PlayStation, this is where you can play as Spider-Man. And I think they paid for exclusivity for Spider-Man for at least an extended period of time. So, is the Xbox and the PC ever going to get it? I would say if they are, it's going to be at least a year to 2 years. It's going to be something that's going to happen down the road. Unless Sony is willing to pony up more money and make more things exclusive. Now, that could be the big one, right? That could really be the deciding factor, because obviously the Sony version is going to sell the most copies. I think that much is evident, because it's the leading platform and it's the one with the most sales. So Sony could literally go, well, we want to lock down more DLC. Here, put in more Spider-Man related characters. And then you run into some issues there with the licensing. But I'm willing to say you're not getting them anytime soon on the other consoles.